The Turkish defence industry is up to 80% self-sufficient. After developing its own technology, Turkey has now unveiled its first aircraft carrier, the biggest ship in the Turkish Navy. Also expected in the next 12 months is a new long-range missile defence system, a new battle tank, and the first test flight of this fighter jet, the Milli Muharip Uçağı, the National Combat Aircraft. I'm Andrew Hopkins, and I've been speaking to İsmail Demi, the president of the Turkish Defence Industry Agency, one-on-one. Ismail Demi, thank you very much for talking to TRT World. Before we start talking about the latest developments in the Turkish defence industry, I wanted to talk to you about some issues which had been in the news recently. One of them, the Biden administration in the United States has announced that it wants to sell Turkey some software upgrades for the current F-16 fighter jets that it owns. Can you tell me when this might happen from your point of view and what this would mean for Turkey and the United States?
Actually, this is a step that is long overdue. I mean, it was an application by Turkish Air Force to have some Link 16 upgrades that almost all the F-16 users in NATO are doing this upgrade. And this was somehow, let's say, delayed. And now they released that. And it doesn't have anything to do with the current negotiations about the procurement and all other upgrades. This is something that our Air Force applied a long time ago. It was an FMS case for a military sales concept. And now the delayed process again started. It is so a positive step, but that it doesn't have much significance from our perspective.
One of the projects you've been working on is the SIPA Long Distance Ballistic Missile project, which I understand is due to come into service this year at some point. What is the latest on that? And also there was a recent interview by the general manager of Aselsan, Haluk Gürgen, in which he said that Turkey doesn't really need things like S-400s from Russia, even US Patriots, because Turkey is making its own missile defense systems now. So what's your view on that as well? And how long do you think it would take the country to be in a position where it really doesn't need these other systems?
SIPER is one important step in our journey towards long-range ballistic air missile defense system. So we have to have a capability that would really cover our defense against any threat, from drones to jet fighters to missiles. So this is a journey, and then we had many steps to be taken to be fully self-reliant. But in the meantime, I must say that in the entire world, this air defense has no limit. So there are measures and countermeasures being taken, and then every country trying to upgrade and put more capability in their air defense systems. So this will continue, and SIPER will have some blocks, block 1, block 2, and first block will be operational very soon because the tests were really successful, and they will continue towards longer range and altitude air defense systems. And as whether Turkey will need a foreign system to make sure that their air defense is complete, we'll have still some time to do this. And I would say about 6 years will be needed to have something equivalent to S-400 or, let's say, Patriot PAC-3, etc.
Also, a few days ago, the TCG Anadolu was commissioned into the Turkish Navy. This is the biggest ship actually in the Turkish Navy now. And the Turkish president, in an interview on TRT recently, he said that there are now plans to make an even bigger ship, that he's been talking to the Spanish government, the British government as well. What exactly is the state of play there, and how are Spain and the UK going to be involved in this project?
Actually, Anadolu was planned as landing helicopter dock, and it's like power transfer platform. And after this ship had some maturity and we had some really important developments in UAVs, we thought, what if we operate some UAVs from this platform? Because it has a runway and helicopters can land and fly from this platform, but we thought it is really going to be a big force multiplier if you locate some UAVs on that. And then Baykar started maybe modifying their TB2 to be operable on this ship. And then Kızıl Elma, the jet engine UAV, this is another plan that they will make some modifications to make sure that this can also operate from this platform. And even Hurjet that TI will be developing, and they will work some on design changes to make sure that it can also operate from Anadolu. That means Anadolu will have significant air power on it. And if you want to put more air power and some other force multipliers, of course we can have a bigger aircraft carrier kind of things. But when it comes to aircraft carrier, the biggest problem is what kind of aircraft you can operate from these platforms. And there are very few aircrafts in the world that you can utilize. And now the main question for us is whether we needed them or not. So once we had Kızıl Elma and TB3 and they say Hurjet and its maybe fighter version can operate from a platform like this, that means we have pretty significant air force on the platform. So if another ship will come bigger than this, and that means this will have more air power, including our indigenous UAVs and other systems. And our shipyards, our engineers are capable of doing this. Of course, any collaboration coming from either UK or Spain will be welcomed.
We're also now sitting in front of the Milli Muharip Uçağı, the National Combat Aircraft, otherwise known as the TFX, which has also been from time to time over the years. What is the state of play with this aircraft now? When is the first test flight going to happen? Because we've already seen the pictures of taxiing tests taking place, and also generally speaking, what are the plans in terms of defence cooperation with the British in future? Because there have been reports about work on submarines together. Also, in recent months, there have been meetings between the defence ministers of the two countries, something like 5 times in 7 months, which is quite an unusual high amount to be taking place. So what can you sort of tell us about that?
Yeah, TFX, our Milli Muharip Uçağı, it is now at rollout and taxiing right now, and it is on time, on schedule. And the flight is another parameter, and we'll do under this roof our best to make sure that it will fly as soon as possible, but as safe as possible. It is very important. So when it comes to flight, we are a little bit cautious and careful about declaring dates. And our engineers are working their best. And in one hand, we are telling them that they must really rush and work hard. But in the other hand, we are telling them make sure that everything is safe, and do not rush on safety items. Make sure that everything can perfectly work and integrated. So this is a kind of balanced work that we have to carry on, and we can work day and night. This is one item, but the other thing is we'll be very careful to make sure that this aircraft will perform its best and will be safe as possible. Of course, this is a very early version and prototype, and there will be many things that in the later stage will change. But what we would say, in any year or around that, and we'll do our best to make it fly.
And what about generally, though, cooperation with
yeah,
Britain?
It is, in some design stages, we had some UK involvement, British involvement, and we had some of their engineers work with us. Of course, there is quite strong willingness in both governments' side to collaborate, and as we mentioned, TFX is one of them. And there are some talks about maybe aircraft carriers, or as some other platforms, and these are between the ministers. And as far as we know from those meetings, they have shown some willingness, but in that process, we always prefer to get involved in very different design stages of different products, and we are not in favor of direct procurement of anything in general, but if it is going to create some critical items and force multipliers will be in our forces, we can support that.
Now, in a recent Turkish government plan for 2019 to 23, there was this aim of the Turkish defence industry to be, I think, 75% self-sufficient. And a few months ago, the Turkish president was saying it's now up to 80%. So where exactly are we now in terms of that figure? And also, what areas do you think need to still have some work done, if you like, to improve the level of autonomy for the industry?
In some products, we have about more than 90% of indigenous products. In some areas, we have about 60%. So if you just take an average, so that's why we talked about these numbers. And when we talk about these numbers, I will always emphasize that this would include the products that we had designed and developed and used in our forces. And this should not include, let's say, like F-16 that we had focused on many years ago, and there are many parts that then should come from the US and things. So we have very limited options to indigenize this, but especially last 15 years or so, on all our products, we have this percentage achieved. And the critical areas, like of course, engine is one of the things that we are really running behind. So then today, for example, we had our indigenous Gökbey helicopter flew with indigenous Turkish-made, designed and made, manufactured engine. So this engine problem is everywhere in TFX and Hurjet and helicopters, but we are going step by step. Like today, we had our indigenous helicopter flew with Turkish-made, designed engine, and the others will be coming, including TFX. We'll always aim to have these indigenous engines. This is one of the soft spot in our industry. But for the future technologies, so in one hand we are running behind and trying to catch up. On the other hand, we are running with the world and we are trying to be in front of the others.
Okay, Ismail, Demi, thank you very much.
Thank you.